All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the world of Hegel.
Ooh, Hegel.
We've got notes, we've got excerpts, we've got comparisons galore.
All about Hegel.
Talking Fichte, Schelling,
Yeah.
Plato, Aristotle.
All the big names.
Kant.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of Spinozan and Romanticism in there.
A little spice.
But, looking at this source material, there are some terms that keep popping up that we should probably define before we get too far.
Definitely.
So we're talking things like the dialectic, the absolute, self-consciousness, and spirit.
Yeah, those are kind of like our base camp essentials, before we start climbing Mount Hegel.
Exactly.
We gotta get our gear together.
Okay, so
Let's start with dialectic.
yeah, let's unpack that one first.
Because it sounds very intimidating.
It does.
But it's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Just imagine a dance, a 3-step dance.
All right.
You start with an idea.
Okay.
We call that the thesis. But that idea inevitably bumps up against its opposite, the antithesis.
Right.
And from that tension, from that clash,
Yeah.
something new emerges.
Okay.
And that is the synthesis.
So it's not a battle where one side wins.
No.
It's more like
It's a collaborative dance.
okay.
Yeah.
That leads to something totally new.
Exactly. And here's the mind-blowing part.
Okay.
Hegel believed that this dialectic wasn't just some abstract idea, it was actually the driving force of reality itself.
Whoa.
Everything. History, nature,
Wow.
our understanding of ourselves.
So instead of just thinking about things changing, he's saying there's a logic to how they change.
That's exactly it.
That's huge.
It is a pretty radical idea.
Okay, so that's the dialectic.
Yeah.
Now, what about this idea of the absolute?
The absolute.
This keeps coming up in the source material, too.
Yeah, think of it as the peak of Mount Everest, the ultimate goal of this dialectical dance.
Yeah.
It's where everything comes together,
All right.
and all those opposing forces
Yeah.
reach a final harmony.
So the absolute is like a giant puzzle.
Yeah.
And all the pieces finally click into place.
That's a great analogy.
So every contradiction is resolved,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
tension is released.
That's the idea.
Okay, and then we have spirit.
Spirit.
Geist, right.
Geist, yeah, in German.
In German, yeah.
Now, this isn't about ghosts or anything spooky.
Okay.
It's more about the collective consciousness of humanity
Okay.
unfolding over time
All right.
through history, art, religion, philosophy.
So it's like
It's that drive.
this energy that's driving us forward
Yeah.
to understand ourselves, to understand the world around us.
Towards knowledge.
Okay, and then
Understanding.
the last one on our list here is self-consciousness.
Yes.
This feels like a big one.
It is.
I'm guessing it's not just about knowing that I exist, right?
Oh, it's much deeper than that. For Hegel, self-consciousness comes from recognizing ourselves in others. It's about that interaction, that relationship.
So you're saying my relationships, the way I connect with other people,
Exactly.
that's actually key to understanding myself.
That's how we become self-aware.
It's not just happening inside my own head.
It's a process that happens between people.
That's fascinating.
And to illustrate this,
Yeah.
Hegel used this really powerful image,
Okay.
the master-slave dialectic.
Master-slave dialectic.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So imagine two people struggling for dominance, right?
Right.
One becomes the master, the other the slave.
Yeah. Classic power dynamic.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
The master, even though they have power, they rely on the slave for recognition, and the slave, through their work and their struggle,
Yeah.
they develop a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the world.
So wait a minute. Are you saying that Hegel believed that sometimes being in a position of less power could actually lead to greater self-awareness?
That's exactly what he's saying.
That kind of flips things on their head, doesn't it?
It does.
Wow. Okay. So
It's a radical idea.
we've got the dialectic.
Yeah.
We've got the absolute.
Yes.
We've got spirit. We've got self-consciousness.
Those are the key players.
They're all connected.
We're all intertwined.
But is there
Yeah.
one book by Hegel that you would recommend
Ah.
to really dive into these concepts?
If you're serious about climbing Mount Hegel,
Okay.
you got to tackle the phenomenology of spirit.
Okay. The phenomenology of spirit.
That's the big one.
Got it.
That's where he lays out his whole system.
Okay. But that book is notoriously dense, right?
It's not an easy read.
I'm already getting a little intimidated.
It's worth the effort if you really want to understand Hegel.
All right. So, the phenomenology of spirit, it is.
You got it.
And what exactly does Hegel lay out in this book?
Well, he outlines the evolution of human consciousness from our most basic awareness all the way to what he calls absolute knowing.
Absolute knowing. Okay, so
it's like a roadmap, a guide.
Like a step-by-step.
To the summit.
Okay, I'm ready to take the first step.
All right.
Where does this journey begin?
The base camp of consciousness, so to speak, is simply consciousness itself.
Okay.
The way we perceive the world through our senses.
Okay.
That immediate, raw experience of just being.
Okay, so just that awareness of being in the world.
Exactly. But then we ascend to self-consciousness, the stage where we realize that we are separate, distinct individuals.
So it's like going from simply seeing to understanding that you are the one who is seeing.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we've moved from just experiencing the world to understanding that we have a place in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And once we grasp our own individuality, we naturally want to understand the world around us.
Makes sense.
So that leads us to the next stage.
Okay.
Reason. Right. This is where we try to make sense of things.
Okay.
Through logic, through scientific principles, through systems of thought.
So we've gone from just being in the world to recognizing ourselves.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to figure out how the world works.
Exactly.
Is that where the dialectic comes into play?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because Hegel believed that while reason is powerful, it has its limits.
Okay.
It needs to be pushed. It needs to be challenged.
Right.
And that's what the dialectic does.
Okay. So through the dialectic, we can refine our understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And move beyond just this basic level of reason.
Keep climbing, keep ascending.
Okay. This is a lot to take in.
I know, right?
My brain is already working overtime.
It's a good workout.
But I do want to keep going. I'm curious to see what comes next.
All right, let's push on.
What comes after reason?
Well, after reason, we enter the realm of spirit.
Spirit.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's about how individual consciousness connects to something larger than itself.
Okay.
So it's the realm of culture, community, shared values, beliefs.
It's like we've gone from understanding ourselves as individuals to realizing that we are all part of something much bigger.
Exactly.
Like a collective.
A collective consciousness.
Okay, and just to be clear, when Hegel talks about spirit, he's not talking about some mystical force out there in the universe.
No. He's talking about the concrete historical unfolding of human consciousness.
All right, so it's something that we're actively creating.
Exactly.
Through our interactions with each other.
Through our relationships.
Our institutions.
Our struggles, our achievements.
It's fascinating.
It is a very powerful idea.
It is.
And a complex one.
I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
Maybe we should take a break.
Yeah.
Let all this sink in.
Let's pause here.
And then we'll come back and continue our exploration of Hegel's philosophy.
Sounds good. Okay, so back to our climate Mount Hegel.
Back to it.
Before the break, we were talking about that realm of spirit.
Right, that idea of individual consciousness connecting to something much, much larger.
Exactly.
But doesn't that make reaching the absolute even more complicated?
Well,
if it's not just me figuring things out on my own. But all of us, all of humanity.
It does add another layer of complexity.
And how do all of our individual desires and this collective spirit, how do those ever line up?
That's the big question, isn't it? That's what Hegel's trying to unravel.
Okay.
And he believed that spirit works through various forms of human experience to get us closer to that ultimate unity.
All right, so give me an example.
Well, one of those forms is religion.
Okay, religion.
That's the next stage in our climb.
So we've gone from sensory awareness to recognizing ourselves, to reasoning, connecting with others, and now we're talking about faith.
Now we're stepping into the realm of the spiritual.
That's a big jump.
It is, but for Hegel, it's a natural progression.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. What does religion grapple with?
The big questions, right?
Exactly.
Like, why are we here? What's the meaning of life?
What happens after we die?
All that stuff.
All the big existential questions.
And how does that relate to the absolute?
Well, religion is a way of seeking the absolute.
Okay.
But it does so through faith, through symbols, through stories.
So it's a different kind of approach.
Right.
It's not just pure logic and reason.
It's a different kind of map.
Okay.
But it's still pointing us towards the same destination.
Well, would Hegel say that religion is the final answer?
Not quite.
Okay.
He saw it as a crucial stage, but ultimately penultimate.
Okay, so what's the final stage?
The peak of the mountain.
Yeah.
Absolute knowing.
And how do we get there?
Through philosophy.
Philosophy, okay.
He famously said, the owl of Minerva takes flight only at dusk.
What does that even mean?
It means that philosophy comes at the end of a long historical process.
Okay.
Reflecting on understanding what came before.
So we've got to go through all these other stages
Yeah.
before we can really get to that point of absolute knowing.
Exactly. We need all those experiences.
Okay, but hold on a second.
Yeah.
You said before that spirit works through all these different aspects of human experience.
Right.
So what about things like art
Yes.
or politics or even just our everyday ethics?
All part of it.
How do those fit into this whole climb towards the absolute?
Well, Hegel believed that everything, even the seemingly mundane,
Okay.
is part of spirit's journey.
Really?
Yeah, he saw art, for example, as a
Right.
way of capturing the essence of different historical periods.
Okay, so like a Renaissance painting could tell us just as much about that time.
As a history book could.
Interesting.
It's like a snapshot of spirit's evolution.
And what about modern art?
Same thing.
It's reflecting our current consciousness.
Exactly.
Okay, and then what about politics and ethics?
Well, remember the master-slave dynamic.
Yeah.
Hegel believed those same forces are at play on a societal scale.
So it's not just about individuals.
No, it's about how we organize ourselves.
Okay.
How we create systems of power.
So being ethical isn't just about being a good person.
It's also about participating in a just society.
Hegel had a lot to say about the state, right?
He did. He saw the state as the highest form of ethical community.
Really?
Yeah, the embodiment of reason and freedom.
But isn't that a bit dangerous?
How so?
Well, I mean, history's full of examples
Oh, yeah.
of powerful states crushing individual freedom
Right.
in the name of some greater good. Doesn't that contradict Hegel's whole idea of individuals recognizing themselves in others
That's a valid concern.
and finding freedom through that?
It is, and Hegel's views on the state are definitely debated.
Okay.
It's important to remember the context.
Yeah.
He was writing in a very different time.
Right.
With different assumptions about power and social order.
So we can't just take his ideas and apply them directly to our world today.
Not necessarily.
We have to think critically about them.
Exactly.
Okay, so even when we're talking about something like ethics and the state,
Yeah.
we're still circling back to that core idea of the dialectic.
Oh,
This tension between opposing forces,
It's
this push and pull.
It's the engine of history.
It's like the universal dance move
You got it.
that plays out on every level
Exactly. And it's this
of
dance.
human experience.
This constant struggle and synthesis that drives spirit towards absolute knowing.
Wow. Okay. I think I need a minute to process all of this.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We've gone from basic awareness to self-discovery, to connecting with others, to grappling with faith and reason. And now we're talking about the state and the absolute.
It's a big journey.
It is. So what happens when we get back from break?
Well, we'll explore what this all means for us
Okay.
down here on the ground in the 21st century.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we're in the home stretch now, the final ascent up Mount Hegel.
You could say that.
We've covered his key concepts, the stages of consciousness,
Yeah.
the role of spirit, and pretty much everything.
Everything, pretty much.
But one thing that really stands out to me is Hegel's view of history.
Yes.
It's not just a bunch of random events, right?
No, not for Hegel.
He saw a pattern, like a purpose unfolding over time.
Exactly. He believed history was spirit unfolding on a grand scale.
Okay, so each era
Each era with its own challenges and achievement.
represents like a step forward in this journey of spirit.
Towards self-understanding.
Okay, but isn't that a bit too, I don't know, optimistic?
Well,
History is full of terrible things.
oh, absolutely.
Wars, injustices, setbacks.
Yeah, but that's the paradox of the dialectic.
Right,
Progress isn't linear.
right.
It's messy. It's full of contradictions.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And even those terrible things, those wars, those revolutions,
Yeah.
Hegel saw them as playing a role in this larger process.
Really?
They force us to confront our assumptions.
Okay.
To break down old structures.
And then rebuild?
Create something new.
So it's like those moments of crisis are actually opportunities for spirit to kind of leap forward.
To learn from its mistakes.
And come up with something better.
Exactly.
That's a pretty interesting way to look at history.
It is. It's a challenging idea.
It is, but I kind of like it.
Me too.
It's like we're not just passive observers.
No.
We're active participants in this story.
We're all part of it.
And that story's not over yet, is it?
Not even close.
It feels like we're in the middle of a pretty crazy chapter right now.
Oh, yeah. With all the technological advancements, social movements, globalization, the climate crisis.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to process.
I wonder what Hegel would make of it all.
Oh, I think he'd be fascinated.
Yeah.
Maybe a little overwhelmed.
Probably.
But I think his ideas could still offer some valuable insights.
So even though he was writing like 200 years ago.
Almost, yeah.
His philosophy is still relevant today.
Absolutely.
How so?
Well, his emphasis on the historical nature of knowledge, his understanding of the dialectic as this driving force of change, his recognition that progress often comes through struggle. These are all concepts that resonate really deeply with our experience today.
Wow, so we've climbed this mountain of Hegelian thought.
We have.
And now we can see our own world in a whole new light.
You could say that.
It's pretty amazing.
It is, and it's not just about understanding history or politics, you know.
Right.
Hegel's philosophy can help us understand ourselves, our relationships, our place in the world.
Like, he's given us a set of tools for navigating this crazy 21st century.
Exactly. Tools for thinking, tools for understanding.
But before we wrap up, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Is there one key takeaway you would want our listeners to remember about Hegel?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
What's his lasting legacy?
I think one of his most enduring contributions is his emphasis on the interconnectedness of everything.
Right.
The individual, the community, history, nature.
It's all connected.
It's all part of a larger web.
And understanding that is important.
Essential, even if we can't fully grasp it.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
But I think, Hegel's philosophy can be daunting.
Oh, for sure.
But ultimately, it's a celebration of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And our quest for understanding.
It's a journey.
A journey that never ends.
Never ends.
Well, I think we've reached the summit of Mount Hegel.
Hey, we made it.
Thanks to you, I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for this guy.
He's a fascinating thinker.
He is.
A lot to learn from him.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey.
Yeah, we hope you learned something.
Remember, the dialectic is always at work.
Always.
So keep those mental gears turning.
Keep thinking, keep questioning.
And we'll see you next time for another adventure in ideas.
Until then.